Good evening, whalawhatu, and welcome to tonight's bulletin of BCN News. Leading the news tonight, there's been some talk lately of quarantine-free travel, but the government is observing very closely what is happening with the Cook Islands before making any firm decisions. I spoke yesterday with Premier Honourable Dalton Tagelangi about the air services agreement with Air New Zealand and when tourism will likely start up again.
At the moment, it's sort of on a hold, given the since the COVID-19 started now, and then. But I have a team that's always been looking at it. We don't wait. As you know, at the moment we've been fortunate to be covered by the New Zealand government for the flights up until the end of December. But we are in discussions in readiness for once the borders are open, hopefully sometime next year, and also take into the fact the tourist numbers and all others, whether we still have the fortnight or the weekly flights. So I'd say I wouldn't go much into it because it's in discussions.
Premier Tagelangi says that he has spoken to the new Chief Executive Officer of Air New Zealand, Craig Foran, and that he will be speaking to Foran again in the new year. The current arrangement with the weekly flights and fortnightly passenger flights with the support of the New Zealand government will likely extend until March next year. However, the Premier says that it is still to be confirmed, but that he is happy with the discussions thus far.
Yes, that's still to be confirmed, but at the moment I'm happy with the discussions thus far. At the moment, that might look of extending it until March next year. At the moment, it's just a matter of confirmation, but it looks good.
The Premier says that they are observing very closely what is happening with the Cook Islands and their travel bridge. With quarantine-free travel and tourism, I asked the Premier whether the borders will also open up to the tourists when quarantine-free travel begins.
That is the whole objective of the whole thing. It's get tourism back, But once that's approved, we'll not say tourism straight away. We got to work with all the stakeholders like tourism, if they're ready, and all these other things, and Jambro as well. And that's why they were forewarned last month that this is where the government are heading, so for them to know and be prepared. So no doubt they will be up to date in the sense of when it's likely, so they're ready. But at the moment they are aware. They're looking about 3 months, but maybe another month or two after that before the borders are fully open to the outside world.
Premier Tagelangi says that when the decisions are made regarding quarantine-free travel, it will likely take 2 to 3 months before the borders will also open up to other travellers. And Telecom Niue will be governed by a new board after Cabinet's decision 2 weeks ago in appointing new board directors. Premier Tagelangi says that he expects this new board to begin work as soon as possible. There's been some disappointment in the public lately regarding the delay of the Manatua cable and other technical issues with the only telecommunications company and state-owned enterprise Telecom Niue. Yesterday I spoke to Premier Tagelangi, who is also the Minister of State-Owned Enterprises, about Telecom Niue.
The board has already been appointed. We're just waiting for a comeback if the position has been accepted, and this has been done 2 weeks ago. So today I will be calling someone in and see whereabouts are we with that. But the board has been appointed, and hopefully that the board will address some of these outstanding issues, but especially on the operational level matters, which it's quite a bit of a rumours and thing going out there, but so hoping to have the board just like all the other established boards, once they've been accept to be the members of boards of and then they come in here and then we address them.
The new Parliament building at Halamahanga is expected to be completed in the second quarter of next year, according to the government's Project Management and Coordination Unit. Despite the challenges and restrictions on travel this year with COVID-19, workers of the contractor DTB are still able to come to Niue to do their work at the new Parliament building. 2 weeks ago, 3 DTB workers from New Zealand were cleared from quarantine to begin working, laying the electrical works in the building, working with some of the local contractors and the Niue Power Corporation. Telecom Niue is also working at the same time, laying their cables and network throughout the building. According to the Project Management Coordination Unit, the builders continue to work on the exterior walls and installing windows. The project managers thank the community for adhering to the access restrictions to the site, which is in place for public safety. On Tuesday this week, Premier and Cabinet met virtually with the new New Zealand Minister of Foreign Affairs, Nanaia Mahuta, and Associate Minister of Foreign Affairs, Aupito William Seal.
Oh, it's more to meet and greet, and congratulate them after the elections, but especially the portfolios. As you know, foreign ministers' portfolios, it's not an easy portfolio, but it was supposed to be a phone call, but I thought it's only appropriate if we have the Zoom and see each other, and also introduce Cabinet, because there's only 4 of us, so it's great for the ministers to have their 1 minute. And just throw in some of the things that would help with their side of things, like finance minister and also health, about COVID and how we can help with like the voucher system for the students and these little things. But most of those things would be channeled through the High Commissioner. But yesterday's Zoom session was more to introduce ourselves, so to see ourselves and build that relationship going forward.
A statement received this morning from the Premier's office said that New Zealand's Foreign Affairs Minister Nanaia Mahuta acknowledged the long-standing relationship between the two countries and navigating through COVID-19. The Minister is encouraged by the opportunity to engage across the Pacific and to work together in the health and economic context. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres says that violence against women and girls is a global human rights challenge, marking the start of the 16 days of activism yesterday. The theme this year is Orange the World, Fund, Respond, Prevent and Collect. The 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an annual international campaign starting on the 25th of November until the 10th of December, which is Human Rights Day. According to the United Nations, the COVID-19 pandemic has further exposed this issue as a global emergency requiring urgent action at all levels, in all spaces and by all people. The social and economic fallout from the pandemic is disproportionately pushing women and girls into poverty, and the risk of violence against them is rising. In Niue, there is no law specifically to deal with violence against women and girls. The Family Protection Bill, which will provide protection for women against family violence, has not been presented before the Whanreke Pule. It remains in draft form and has been so for more than 10 years. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urges the global community to hear the voices and experiences of women and girls and take into account their needs, especially the survivors and those who face multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. Mr. Guterres says that we must also prioritize women's leadership in finding solutions and to engage men in the struggle. And BCN's news team yesterday completed 10 weeks of training on strengthening media resilience with TVNZ's Pacific correspondent Barbara Drever and producer Lee Taylor. BCN's small news team produces 4 news bulletins a week for TV, radio and online in both English and Wangahau. Trevor Siakia, the general manager of BCN, said that the new ideas and skills the news team have learned over the past 10 weeks is being used to improve BCN News on TV and online content. The training is provided through the support and funding of the Pacific Corporation Broadcasting Limited and Pacifica TV. And just before we leave you, remember to watch the Argentina and All Blacks game tomorrow night on TV Anywhere at 9:45. But that's your news for this evening. You have a wonderful weekend and we'll be back with you on Monday. Until then, good night.